Malka, if I can ask you for Women's Day, if you have a message, yo no puedo hacer la entrevista en español, but if you can do it in English and then Spanish, I would love to keep your message.
I cannot do it in Hindi. Excuse me. I would love to. I've been so many times to India, but still, I'm not able to do it in Hindi.
We will work on both of these. This will be our joint project. But if you had a message for, working women out there, or Women's Day is that one day where everyone kind of wakes up and talks about it should be more than symbolic. But what would your message be in terms of for the women, but also for the allies?
I think that Women's Day is important, but the message should be all the other days that is not Women's Day. We have to work to make this message. It's us that have the interest to do the message that is widely available in Women's Day has to be available all the other days that are not Women's Day. And that starts by us. We have to also help other women. Sometimes women are not very empathetic towards other women. And I think that we have to promote women, we have to help each other, and we have to be less tough with other women that are trying. We see the woman that goes to the workforce, but we don't see what she has to deal with behind that position. We ourselves have to be the first ones to take the torch together with men, and we have to help other women to promote this message. This message has to be constantly out there, and we have to be the ones that voice that message, not only in one day that the world wakes up and does all these events for women that are very nice. I'm glad that we do them, but in reality we have to be the people that are constantly putting that message on the table, and we have to enlist men that help us to do that, and we have to be, as women, much more tolerant towards other women. Sometimes my greatest allies have been men. Curiously enough, it has been difficult for me sometimes to work with women. Somehow these women leaders are not very empathetic towards other women leaders, and sometimes it's like Margaret Thatcher. She used to be known for putting she was a tough woman, but she didn't put women in her around her. It was only men. So, and I think that a lot of that happens as well in companies around the world. I think that we have to be staunch enforcers of promoting women, and we have to not be our worst enemies. We have to be our best friends. And the other thing that I think is that we have to give women, I think that mentorship of other women is very important. I think that men have created a network that promotes men to different positions, and I think that women have to not only preach that we do that, we have to do it, and we have to do it forming networks like the one that you are trying to form, Anita, and I think that that's very important. And we have to get together and form mentorship of other women in different companies, even in other sectors. I think that cross pollination is very important, and I think that a strong network of women that not only goes out in the 8th of March to say what are our aspirations and agenda. We have to be constantly putting out those messages in everything we do. We have to create in our workforces networks of women. If they are not existent, we have to create them, and we have to not be scared of how is that going to look in the administration, because you know I think that there are biases, as we were saying, towards women, but it's us, without our input and without our constant message that we have to put forward that they are those biases. These things are this environment is not going to change. We have to bring consciousness to our firms, to our companies, that those biases exist, and sometimes not be scared to call them out. No, and I think that that is very important. We need to be courageous, because there is a risk in everything. There is a risk, but I prefer to take that risk and have an impact, even if that generates consequences for me, than to be quiet and silenced and not take the risk of saying when there is a bias, and call it out. Call it out. If you see a bias in your company, you have to call it out. and there is a risk always. Without risks, changes are not possible. So you have to bear that in mind.
So have that courage. And I love what you said about mentorship, because I think that's something you see a lot of male colleagues do very, very well. And it's a sort of learned habit for a lot of women.